How much is your chicken?
It's just 10,000 naira.
Please give me 4.
In Ober village, where the red earth, baked under the fierce sun and palm trees, whispered old secrets to anyone who cared to listen, a story once lived. A story so strange that even the bravest hunters refused to discuss it after sunset. It began quietly, with a man named Daniel who walked into the village carrying nothing but a small brown bag and a limp. He did not talk much when he arrived, but his smile was warm, and his hands were gentle. People thought he Daniel. Settled near the market square and built a small stall made from leftover wood that even carpenters abandoned. He lit his first fire one morning when the sky still looked sleepy, and by the time the sun climbed high, a smell unlike anything the village had known wrapped itself around every nostril. Children stopped playing. Traders forgot their prices. Women who came for ingredients stood still with their baskets half empty. Something was sizzling on Daniel's grill, and it smelled like it came for when the first chicken finished roasting. People gathered around, murmuring, pointing, peeping. The skin gleamed like bronze polished with palm oil. The flesh fell apart like soft bread soaked in warm water, and when the first man tasted it, he forgot his name for a moment. Rumor says he dropped his walking stick and danced like a young boy. From that day, Daniel's roasted chicken became the pride and obsession of Ober village. No feast, no celebration, no journey was complete wit. People asked, how? What was the secret? Was it the charcoal he used, the spice, the cooking pot, or perhaps the kind of chicken he bought? Daniel always smiled politely and said the same thing. It is patience. But those who watched him closely knew patience alone could not explain how his chickens were so fat, so soft, so juicy, every single day. Mama Joy, who sold pepper soup in her mother's old stall, whispered often that something was not right. Nobody's luck shines that bright without another thing suffering in the dark, she said. Each time Daniel's customers overflowed into the road. Papa Ibuka, the oldest meat seller in the village, looked at Daniel's stall the way a goat looks at a sharp knife. He always muttered. Success that grows too fast grows from a root you cannot see, and roots like that are dangerous. But suspicion is not evidence, and gossip is not truth. Even the chief of Ober village once ordered 20 pieces for a council meeting. Daniel became popular, yet he never celebrated. He never smiled for long. He always walked with that limp, which seemed to worsen each week. And each night, when the village road grew empty and only crickets sang, Daniel would lock himself. The villagers noticed the compound smelled strange sometime. Not the smell of chicken or spices, but something sour, something warm and metallic, something like rotting groundnut mixed with old blood. Children who ran near the fence sometimes heard rustling, like something crawling across dry banana leaves. They said it sounded like a snake from inside the ground itself. But whenever adults tried to listen, the noise vanished, slipping away like a fright. The truth, however, lived inside Daniel's small room, where he sat every night under moonlight that feared to enter. After locking his door 3 times, he would sit on the floor and unwrap the thick cloth tied around his leg. What he revealed was a wound. It had grown wider over the months, darkened like burnt yam, and pulsed like it had its own heartbeat. Sometimes it trembled. Sometimes it felt as if tiny feet kicked under his skin. And always it oozed a warmth. When Daniel stared at it, he whispered like a man begging a god he didn't understand. Please. I fed you? I swear I fed you. But the wound never listened. It wasn't just a wound. It was something living, something hungry, something that had followed him all the way from Lagos Bihober village ever tasted his chicken, before Daniel ever roasted his first miracle. He had been a young man in Ladibel market, een of the thousands who pushed heavy carts, carried engines, and sweated until their bones felt bruised. He envied every wealthy man who passed. He envied their perfumes, their cars, their laughter. Most of all, he envied Chief Benson, a man whose wealth shone like it was sprayed from heaven in gold dust. Chief Benson walked like someone who owned the breath inside his lungs. He approached the chief. "Sir," he said, swallowing shame. "Please help me, I don't want to die poor. Show me the way." Chief Benson looked at him for a long moment, his smile slowly stretching like a rope being pulled. "If your heart is strong," he accepted an invitation into darkness. He went. He entered a warehouse lit only with a red bowl, and there he met Barbara. Barbara was neither man nor spirit. He had the shape of a human, but his movements were too slow, his skin too pale, his eyes too dark. When he spoke, his voice echoed like someone speaking from far inside a cave. "Wealth has a master, and if you want wealth, you must serve the master." Daniel thought they wanted his blood, or money, or maybe a piece of his life. But Barbara laughed. "Nothing so simple," he said. Chief Benson revealed his thigh, and Daniel saw a hole, a living hole crawling with white, silent worms that moved as if they listened to music only they could hear. "This," Chief said, "is the price. This is my bank. They eat for me, and the world feeds me." Daniel wanted to run. He truly did. But greed is a hand that grabs a man's leg and drags him back. He stayed. Barbara touched his leg with a cold finger, whispered words that twisted the air, and Daniel felt something enter him. Not a knife, not pain, something alive, something that slithered beneath his skin like a snake finding a new home. He fainted when he woke. The wound was there, and the creatures inside were awake. Daniel ran from Lagos, believing he could escape the curse, but the wound whispered to him the way a mother calls a child. It pushed him to move, to flee, to hide in a quiet village where nobody knew him. That was how he arrived in Ober. The wound guided him to feed the creatures every night. When he placed a calabash below his leg, warm liquid dripped steadily, and sometimes tiny white worms fell out. Living, wriggling, hungry, he mixed everything into his chicken feed. By morning, the chickens grew unnaturally fat. By afternoon, they tasted like nothing anyone had eaten. By evening, the whole village was addicted. Daniel's wealth grew, his limp worsened, his nightmares deepened. Each night, the wound whispered louder. It wanted more food, more life. One night, Daniel woke to a violent pulsing in his leg. Before he could untie the cloth, the wound burst open like an overripe fruit. Creatures spilled out, small, white, silent, countless. They crawled across his skin, into his hair, behind his ears. One slid into his mouth. Others crawled beneath his ribs. Daniel tried to scream, but no sound came out. His eyes bulged as the creatures fed slowly, patiently. Lovingly by dawn, Daniel's house was silent. That morning, villagers noticed his stall was cold. No fire, no smoke. "No, Daniel." People gathered, confused. Then the smell came, thick, heavy, like old blood fermenting. It led them to Daniel's door. They hesitated, argued, then pushed it open. What they saw still haunts Ober village to this day, Daniel's body. After Daniel's death, Ober village tried to forget. Human beings always pretend silence can bury a horror. But some horrors refuse burial. For weeks, the villagers avoided the road leading to Daniel's compound. Mothers warned their children never to run near the fence. Hunters stopped passing by that side of the bush entirely. Even the goats gave the place wide distance, walking around the house like they sensed something older than their instincts. But fear alone does not stop what lives beneath the soil. It began with the chickens. The ones that scattered into the forest returned, fatter than before, moving strangely, behaving like birds that had seen something no creature should see. Sometimes their throats produced a soft humming, like many tiny voices trapped inside them. People noticed their eyes now shimmered with a faint white film. One evening, a boy named Azondu tried to catch one of the chickens to sell at the market. The moment he grabbed the bird, it went silent. Then its feathers puffed, and its belly trembled as if something inside it shifted, waking. Ozondu screamed and threw it away. The bird landed, shook itself, and walked off. Not running, but calmly, Like a creature that knew it could not be harmed, rumors spread faster than palm wine. Some said the chickens were possessed. Others said Daniel's curse had jumped from him into them. A few whispered about the worms that had crawled from his leg, imagining them now living inside the birds. But nobody wanted to investigate. Fear is a master that silenced curiosity. The chief of Ober village, pressed by complaints, decided to send his guards to inspect the compound. "We must know what now lives there," he declared. But when the guards reached the old house, the air shifted. The ground felt soft, like wet earth even though there had been no rain. A strange heat radiated from below, like a hidden fire burning deep underground. The guards knocked on the door jokingly, laughing to cover their fear, until the wood pulsed gently, almost breathing. Another muttered a prayer. Nobody entered. Word reached Papa Ibuka, the old meat seller. He shook his head and said, "Something is still feeding there, something Daniel woke, and if it is alive, it is growing." That night, a tremor passed through the village. Not loud, not violent, but long. Pots rattled on shelves. Water calabashes quivered. Many people woke, thinking a large animal was moving under the ground. The chief ordered diviners and elders to gather. When they cast cowries and threw colonut, every sign pointed to one truth. The master of the creatures is near. At first, nobody understood. Then Mama Joy remembered the name Daniel. Once mumbled when he was half asleep in her stall, Barbara. The villagers called an emergency gathering under the ancient Iroko tree. Flames from the torches rose and fell in the night wind as the people whispered. Mama Joy narrated everything she had heard from Daniel months before. His nightmares, his muttering, the heavy footsteps he claimed walked beside him though he lived alone. He said something followed him from Lagos, she added, trembling. Something that wanted more than meat. Something that wanted breath. The elders agreed the village was in danger. But how do you fight something you cannot name? That same night, as the moon climbed behind the clouds, a strange visitor appeared at the edge of Ober village. He wore a long, dusty coat, his face hidden beneath a wide hat. He walked with the slow steps of someone who had traveled far. When he reached Mama Joy's stall, still open as she washed plates after the gathering, he stopped. "I am looking," he said, in a voice like dry wind scraping metal. Furzing. Who are you?" The man lifted his head slowly. His eyes were too dark, dark like the inside of Daniel's wound. "I am Barbara," Mama Joy screamed. Pots fell. Servants nearby rushed to her, as if the shadows themselves had swallowed him. But his footprints remained in the red dust, sizzling slightly, as though they were burning from inside. From that night, the compound began to change. The roof sagged inward, as if something heavy pressed it from above. The walls swelled with soft movements, bulging, then relaxing. The fence posts vibrated gently, like drums played with invisible fingers. Children said the ground there breathed, rising and falling like a sleeping giant. Every few days, villagers heard shuffling beneath the house, followed by faint whispers. Not human whispers, more like the sound of many tiny bodies brushing together, sighing, waiting. The animals sensed it too. Dogs barked at the compound through the night, until their voices cracked. Cats refused to walk near it, even entered and wadded that path.
Today your cup has full. You used your mysterious chicken to destroy people, giving them poison. Today you must die.